Hey there, this is Robbie Jeanette with Keyboard Magazine. I'm here with Evan Bogart, who is a producer, songwriter, and creative executive.
Yes.
Possibly Renaissance Man.
Renaissance Man, and possibly Rain Man.
And possibly Rain Man. We haven't decided yet. So you have your fingers in many pots, one of which is this show Platinum Hit on Bravo, where you basically, it's a songwriting competition.
Yes.
And the songwriters all obviously play an instrument, some keys, some guitar, some whatnot.
Some keyboards, some guitars, some ukulele, gukulele, which I was introduced to on the show, guitar ukuleles.
Okay.
Like a difference.
Gukulele.
A whole broad range of instruments.
And you as a songwriter, are you a keyboard-based songwriter, or can it come from any...
I don't play guitar.
Right.
I know how to play, I know how to play Blackbird on bass.
Nice.
Kind of random. Keys and programming and a lot of top line as well. Like I'll noodle and write and come back and create around it.
Do you write in programs like Reason or Logic Synths and Beats and stuff, or do you usually start at the piano? Or
usually I like to start unless I'm working with somebody who's a producer or programmer and I'm just doing top line.
Right.
I usually like to start from the ground up. With, create stuff and I'll play something, you play something. I have a melody. Or this chord works with that. And there's no real rhyme or reason to how we write.
Right. When you're in the studio, you have some singles out now. Jennifer Lopez, Enrique Iglesias.
Yeah, Enrique and Hot Shell Ray, which is this new band. They have a song called Tonight that's kind of burning up.
When you wrote in the studio with them, different for each artist, do you have kind of like a method to your madness?
It's totally different for every artist ever. I mean, Enrique Red One was the producer on that, so I wrote most of the top line stuff on there. And on the Hot Shell Ray one, E-Man was the producer, but we all start from the ground up. So whereas Red had a beat already made, it's just all. Listen, there are certain people who have their way in the way they write.
Yeah.
To me, I walk into a room with no preconceptions of how the session's going to go. I don't know if it's going to go good. I don't know if it's going to go bad, and I don't know how I'm going to write the song that day. And sometimes I'll come in with a concept or a melody, or some chord structure in my mind or something, but at the end of the day, usually that shit just gets thrown out. Yeah. And you start something else. It turns into something else anyway. Right. So I really try not to walk in with any kind of formula. I try to walk in with just an open mind and ready to have a good time.
Now, you work in obviously a lot of different studios, but you have your own.
We're just building my own right now. Yeah, we just moved in here.
What are going to be your in-house synths and keyboards in your studio? Because you probably have worked with a variety of different,
Yeah, I'm like a huge fan. It's funny when we were picking this stuff out, and I was talking to my GC program. I was I wanted the Phantom.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, you're a Roland guy." It was like really a weird thing. I was like, "Is that like a bad thing?" That's kind of my fave. I don't know. I like that. I like the stock sounds on it. I use a lot of soft synths and stuff. Definitely with a lot of the pop stuff, doing a lot of trancey kind of stuff like Nexus.
Are there certain programs, do you have a program on your laptop that you fool around and make beats on?
Yeah. I'll do pre stuff on just GarageBand.
GarageBand.
It's really it's fun that way.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff is real cheesy.
Yeah.
Also, I think all the different musical parts for "Love in This Club" by Usher are all loops as well.
Wow.
That they just put together. I haven't found them yet, but someone told me they're on there.
Interesting.
It's on YouTube. Someone shows it.
Do you have to give publishing credit to GarageBand?
No. It's all. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't really use anything on there, but if I'm on the road, when I'm not big on wanting to do something that's over the top while I'm mobile.
Right.
When I'm mobile, I want it to be really cash and flexible.
Sketchpad.
Even if I'm sometimes I'll be in a studio, there'll just be an acoustic piano, and if I have just a digital recorder.
Yeah, or your iPhone or whatever.
Yeah. I'm really there's a lot of music snobs about what they use and what they don't use.
Right.
Pretty much other than the Phantom, I'm not a music snob.
We were talking before we started on camera about kind of the album versus single realm, and we were talking about in singles nowadays, a lot of the stuff that's on the singles chart doesn't reflect on the album chart.
Yeah.
And we were talking about singles in a way that I was used the word candy pop, but it is somewhat mindless four on the floor thump, but there's tons of synths being used, electronic drum beats and stuff. In your experiences, when these songs are getting created, it's mostly obviously software utilized. Are people actually playing in Ableton, right? Are people actually playing a lot of synths in the studio on these tracks, or are they just programming MIDI code and
both?
both.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the Dr. Luke camp really, from what I hear, really gets off on like programming it and like really messing with things and kind of going into like laying it into Pro Tools and as opposed to playing a lot of the stuff. Personally, I don't get that deep into like manipulation.
Right.
I kind of like what's natural, and then maybe at the end go back and tweak it. I'm more about like get the song done.
Right.
Worry about everything else later.
One thing about songs nowadays is some songs are so dependent on the sound that it's hard to, take them out from that. And it used to be the thinking that a great song can be played on just like piano or guitar and vocal. How do you feel about that in terms of like, does a real song just translate to an acoustic setting, or can something with just a beat and some crazy tweaked Lil Wayne vocals or whatever?
Right. Great songs that stand the test of time, do apply to like the Quincy Jones like one finger test, where you could just play it.
Right.
No matter what the production is around it, if you play it on the keys
with one finger,
it's probably a hit.
Right on.
Or if you can just sing it with a guitar or on a piano, it's probably a great song. I don't think any of that is lost. I do think that people mask okay songs with great production.
Yeah, as opposed to the 80s when they masked great songs with terrible production.
Right, exactly. which, by the way, and the crazy, people always ask me what my favorite era of music is, and I always say the 80s. And it's like, everybody's always like, ew, 80s. I'm like, you gotta listen through that.
Through the production.
If you can get through the production and listen to the songwriting itself, so good.
But also, the 80s was where we started seeing synth programming and MIDI programming.
Totally.
And, by the time you get to the mid-80s, I mean, a lot of the new wave music, it almost kind of made a foundation for what we're hearing today in terms of programmed music and tracks and beats.
Sure. And ironically, you're sitting here saying that, we're actually in my dad's old offices.
Right,
Casablanca Records, where obviously Georgia Murder put out I Feel Love.
Yeah.
Which really did set off like the synth revolution. I went on tour with David Guetta last summer. And I mean, they're just like, the biggest Georgia Murder fans. I mean, like he is the godfather of dance music in the sense of going to the synth as opposed to a lot of more like analog.
And I think many probably casual fans today wouldn't even be aware of Georgia Moroder's existence
if it wasn't for the never-ending story.
Right.
I hear stories back in the day, like when that first came out, and when people started really like pushing the limits and boundaries.
Yeah.
I wish I was there to see it.
In your dad's label, Casablanca, Donna Summer, Kiss, some really big acts that kind of defined the late 70s.
Yeah.
And both disco and obviously Kiss had their disco little crossover for a second, but it was very iconic to be able to.
I Was Made for Loving You.
I Was Made for Loving You, of course.
My dad actually is like written in the books as like basically the king of disco. He took disco from the clubs and he made it mainstream. Donna and Village People, Lips Incorporated, Cher, just on and on.
Yeah, his finger on the pulse.
He even put out the Star Wars soundtrack as a disco album.
Yeah.
And sold 500,000 records.
Absolutely.
I would call Mako. He probably thought, if you haven't seen Star Wars, you're on drugs.
Yeah.
And if you're on drugs, here's a version of Star Wars that you'll like to listen to.
There you go.